Hey guys, Julie here. Welcome back to my channel. I apologize in advance if you hear some banging in the background. They are doing construction outside, so it might get loud throughout this video, so I'm sorry about that. But today I wanted to bring you a walkthrough of Foxfire, the Kitsune Oracle by Lucy Cavendish, artwork by Meredith Dillman. And this is from Blue Angel Publishing. So this is my first Lucy Cavendish Oracle deck. And I know she has some others with the artist Jasmine Beckett Griffith, I think. And I have been eyeing those and I still can't make up my mind about which one to get. But in the meantime, I have this one. So let me just read you the back. You are about to enter a magical realm, a secret world of cherry blossom trees, ginkgo plants that talk, dragons that create the day and the night, and elves that guard the sacred groves. In this enchanted land, there exists the most ancient of powers, Foxfire. And the guardians of Foxfire are the remarkable Kitsune. With origins in ancient Eastern spirituality, the Kitsune are legendary shape-shifting foxes who work with the Shinto deity Inari. Loyal, wise, and very clever, Kitsune bring good fortune and abundance and give sound, sage advice for all matters of the mind, body, and soul. Practical and mystical, the Kitsune will weave about you strong, protective energies and bestow upon you their many gifts and blessings. So let's take a look at the guidebook. In the beginning, Lucy Cavendish gets a little bit into the origin of the Kitsune mythology. And then she also describes kind of the genesis of this deck. She talks about how she was fascinated with foxes ever since she was a child, and then as she got older, she would visit Japan many times and became more and more connected with the Kitsune. Let me just read a little bit, so I'll jump ahead. When they, the Kitsune, when they asked me to share their gifts with people who were perhaps unaware of them, I considered this suggestion very carefully. I took my time. You see, I had many doubts about my own worthiness and the rightness of this possibility. I am not Japanese. I am not Shinto, although I find much to adore about this spiritual path, and it has a great deal in common with my own pagan ways. I am not an expert in Japanese folklore. I am a visitor in that world and perhaps always will be. So when the Kitsune asked me once, I waited. When they asked me twice, I began to consider deeply. And when they asked me a third time, and when all the seemingly unlikely events that made working with them possible were set in motion without any effort at all, as if they had made it all happen with a flick of 9 tails, I felt it was time to accept their offer and their blessing and to take up the pen and allow the messages to flow through. Then the guidebook goes on to talk about the Japanese god Inari and how the Kitsune are connected with this god. Then we have the section Age Brings Wisdom to Kitsune and Magical Abilities. And this talks about how in our culture, age is seen to be a negative. But with the Kitsune and this mythology and tradition, aging is very much a positive. It's wisdom, it's beauty, and enlightenment and power. So I'll just read a little bit from this section. For Kitsune, the gifts of age are astonishing in their power. For as Kitsune age, they acquire different abilities, including the first, the ability to transform into a human. This is the way it was in ancient times and legendary places. I'll skip ahead. It is said that foxes who are old and wise have the power to act as human, to seem to be human, for a sustained period of time, but not all of these foxes are considered to be benevolent to humans. In some cultures, like the Korean, the shape-shifting fox who becomes human is nearly always female and not always good. The foxes who work with Inari are universally seen as benevolent, but those who are simply foxes, growing old and learning their power, are sometimes seen to be yokai, an untranslatable Japanese term for the magical beings that defy categorization. And then we get into the section called Foxfire, the transformational flame of the Kitsune. So as the Kitsune grow older, they develop a special gift called simply Foxfire, or Kitsunebi. It is a special fire unlit by human hands or natural forces that emanates from the Kitsune, and which can light the way for those who are lost or warm the hearts of those who have grown cold and out of love with life. And it goes on to talk about how the Kitsune manifests the foxfire. So then the guidebook also goes on to explain the realm of the Kitsune and the kinds of beings that you will find within the cards. So it lists dragons and sacred trees and shape-shifting beings, mer beings, and it goes into why these beings are in the realm of the Kitsune, why they are important. And then we have sections on how to work with the deck, and it talks about reversals, which you can use reversals with this deck. You have some spreads, and then the card meanings. Here are the backs, so you can see how they are reversible. You've got the foxes, and you can see how shiny and glossy the finish is, which was the main reason why I was prepared to film top down to give you a better look at the cards, but because this cardstock catches so much reflection and glare, it just wasn't gonna happen. So you get me today along with the cards. But it is typical Blue Angel cardstock. So these are pre-existing images from Meredith Dillman, and you'll even see in some of the cards, she'll have her signature and the year that she created the art. You have characters in traditional kimonos, and then you have other characters that are more Japanime in style, with more, fantasy-like clothes or Western clothes. And so for some of you that might be a little bit jarring, but for me, I didn't really have a problem with it. It still seemed cohesive. I put the cards back in order to give you guys a look. Number 1, the richness within. Oh, see that glare? Oh, kill me. Acceptance. So this fox looks, I don't know, her expression looks really sly and tricksy to me, so I feel it's a little bit mismatched with this keyword, but it's a lovely image. Call forth the waves. Do you see that? Oh, that's so annoying. Tea ceremony. The golden moment. Rare knowledge. Past lives. The gift of connection. So this was one card in which the image, I just had a hard time getting the connection between the image and the message of the card. In the guidebook, it talks about how we have the ability to connect with people and to bring them together. So for me, I just wasn't seeing that in this particular image of this woman. Or kitsune, I'm not even sure. It doesn't really go into describing the image. But the guidebook, for the most part, does. With most of the cards, Lucy Cavendish does explain how the image coincides with the keyword and the message. Hope. Grace. Sunlight after darkness. Be still a while. And this one's really pretty. And I think the myth is that once the fox gets their 9th tail, then they've reached that point of enlightenment where their coats turn white. Fleeting beauty. The awakening. Oh, that glare. Kill me. The sentinel. Would it be better this way? Not really. Time to restore. Growth. To dance with joy. The creation of light. The garden of the night. Watch and listen carefully. Now it's time for me to get on a little bit of a soapbox here. She is wearing a hanbok, not a kimono. She is Korean. Hanbok is a Korean dress. And now, Korean and Chinese also have their own shape-shifting fox mythology. And in Korea, it's not called Kitsune. Kitsune is Japanese. In Korea, it's called gumiho. Now, don't quote me on any of this. I'm not trying to pretend to be an expert on all Asian fox mythology and lore, but I'm just going off of what I generally know. And the guidebook even says that in Korean culture, the fox spirit is not always benevolent, and this is true. So traditionally, from what I know, the gumiho usually transforms into a female, a beautiful woman, to entice men and then eat their hearts or liver or whatever organ, depending on the story. So yes, in Korean culture, traditionally, the gumiho has a more sinister depiction. So yes, between the Japanese, Chinese, and Korean cultures, they do have their own version of the nine-tailed fox. But in Korea, it's not called the kitsune, it's called the gumiho. And so if you're going to create a deck like this, and if you're going to speak to a culture outside of your own, you need to do your due diligence and do some research, because you're creating this realm of the kitsune. It's Japanese. Kitsune, inari, like, it's Japanese. So to me, this is either oversight, the people at Blue Angel or Lucy or whoever, and they just didn't catch the fact that this is a different culture, or they just figured, Japanese, Korean, looks similar enough, let's just throw it in there, maybe nobody will notice. I noticed. This card does not belong in this deck. We are speaking to a different fox spirit. We are speaking to gumiho, not kitsune. Same issue with this image, immortality. It's lovely. And the woman is dressed in a hanbok. She is Korean. I feel she doesn't belong in this deck. Now this one I am on board with. This is Born with a Gift. To me, this image and the other images in this deck are very much in the tradition of Japanime. And I don't know a lot about Japanime, but from my experiences with that type of art, I have, noticed that the characters aren't always in kimonos. They are in fantasy style clothes, depending on the narrative, or in more Western style clothes like this. So I can get on board with that. I am okay with that. And it doesn't jar me like this does. And this is actually one of my favorite images in the deck. It's really pretty, and it has this kind of steampunk feel to it, I think. Delight. Make a wish. Tending the future. Empowerment. Transcendence. So this is the same fox that is used on the backs of the cards. And I do like the kind of celestial backdrop that's interwoven here. I do wish this background color was a little less muted so that the fox pops more. Rituals and offerings. Willing entanglement. A time to walk alone. Find a place to withdraw. Leave behind what is no longer you. Beauty of age. For this card, I wish they had given a character that was actually aged. I don't know, she looks like she's 15. And the guidebook does explain that, okay, this is an image of a fairy bringing you the message of aging being beautiful. You should embrace the beauty of age. You should embrace, its power, its gifts, whatever. I can't remember the exact messaging, but I still would have preferred someone who actually looked older in that card. The Noble One. Memories of the Forgotten Self. Sharing your wisdom. Bringer of change. So his butterfly wings are the same pattern of the peacock butterfly, and they do have those in Asia, but the first time I saw a peacock butterfly was when I was in Sweden, and their wings are more red than this, and they're beautiful. They're one of my favorite butterflies. So it brings back nostalgic memories for me of Sweden when I see that. Beneath the surface. Threshold. Threefold protection. Sorry about the glare, guys. I am annoyed by it. Shadow Dancer. Foxfire. Follow the signs. And the final one, Coming of Age. And I'm not sure if I showed you in previous cards, but here is the artist's signature. And it's often followed by the year that she created the card. The year isn't on this one, but it's on some of the others, and you can see that her art dates back to as early as 2004. Other than the couple of cards that made me a little grumpy, I really love this deck. The imagery is just fantastic. And the guidebook is good overall as well, so I can see why people really are drawn to Lucy Cavendish. I haven't had this deck for very long, but already I know that I will be reaching for it a lot and that it will get its use. So drop me a comment below and let me know your thoughts about the deck. As always, I appreciate that you take the time to hang out with me, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.